Welcome back to the Don't Look Back Network for Funeral. This is yet another game by Crux Studios. Same wonderful human beings behind both Within and The Hospital that I recorded already. Both of which were fantastic games, and both of those, as good as they were, made me go back to their itch.io page and look for other games that they released, and I found 4 more that they released prior to those two. This was the first one. Following this one will also be Umbra Mortis, The Babysitter, and Decrypt. I want to play everything that these guys do, because both of their games that I've played so far have been phenomenal. So let's go ahead and start this one out and see what their very first release was like. You are in this bleak funeral home, amidst a few other people. Do you know them? They look familiar, but you're not sure if you've ever seen them before. It is maddening, this sense of familiarity. For some reason, you are certain that you ought to be knowing who they are. Yet why can't you remember their names? The funeral service appears to have not started yet. The mourners stand before the casket, nameless and lost in thought. Their writing is so good. And who are they mourning? Why are you even here? The coffin is sleek, of dark ebony, the coffin of a poor man. The picture atop it, that face, is that your picture? A sense of alarm and disorientation grips you. What is happening? How could your photo be atop the coffin? A knowledge rises, like the rising of some dark tide, a horrific memory, and then it recedes before you can identify it. You turn to the mourners, just a handful of people really, about 4 or 5. Hanging back in the shadows. Only 3 people are in the front row. Clearly the dead man wasn't very popular. You approach the 3 nearest the coffin. They look at you unseeingly, as if they are looking past you. A woman in her 50s, bearing an air of faint sorrow. Her eyes are distant, testament to a lifetime of grief. Again, there is a sense of aching familiarity. You are certain that you know her, but that knowledge is locked away somehow, and you are unable to get it. Beside her, a young man in his 30s, a guarded expression and an air of restlessness, as if he would much rather be elsewhere. The sight of him troubles you, but you're not sure why. Beside him is a pretty young girl in her 20s. Her expression is subdued and thoughtful. The sight of her inexplicably strikes you like a blow. It takes some effort for you to regain your composure. Just as you approach them, a strange thing happens. You're not sure what just happened. The world seemed to fade away for an instant. Now you find yourself standing before the woman. She does not acknowledge your presence. But here's an incredible thing. She does not open her mouth, but you can hear her thoughts as if she were speaking. What dark magic is this? The woman, it was so sudden, but now that I think about it, it's not so surprising. All these years he talked about his own death, and now it came about in a way none of us expected. How did he die? Or I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know if she's going to respond if she's not actually... here we go. It was terrible. He had always been scared of a violent death, but at least it was quick. Although she does not directly respond to your question, her thoughts shift in the direction of your prompt. He had always been terrified of suffering, of having some kind of near-fatal accident and then living in pain, or living as a vegetable. He was always afraid of that, of ending up a vegetable and then having to physically rely on someone just to be alive. So I'm glad that he went abruptly. It was instant death. so sorry. The grief comes and goes. I still can't believe he's gone, even after all that has passed between us. You sense her thoughts shifting to the young man and woman beside her. I'm more worried about them. They've had to put up with a lot. Matthew's already growing distant. He was warm for a while when he first arrived, almost like his old self. Now he's gone back into his brooding shell, like father, like son. At least Priya is thawing a little. Her thoughts fade away for an instant. It's incredible how one incident can destroy everything, tear a family apart, and keep us apart. All those years ago, and it still haunts us. What incident? What happened? I realize now I've been avoiding thinking about that for a long time. Maybe that's how you survive. You clamp down on the hurtful memories, lock them away in a box, never open it, never look in. Because if you do, they'll chafe you until you break. God knows it nearly destroys the kids. How Matthew adored his father, worshipped him really. And Priya was his princess. All of that, an illusion so rudely torn away. Maybe, now that he's gone, it's time to open that box and look at the terrible stuff in there. Maybe I should no longer run away from it. Her words evoke that sense of bitter agony. You want to reach out and comfort her, but you hesitate. Wouldn't that be inappropriate? There's that maddening feeling of familiarity again, an ache that seems to tell you that you know this woman, and another emotion threading through the sorrow. Shame. I don't mean to pry, but what happened? Even as you ask the question, a deep dread fills you. Maybe you don't want to know the answer. Maybe you should not even ask it. The woman sighs deeply, and you sense grief bubbling up inside, a wellspring of it so powerful that for a moment you fear you will be drowned in it. But before you can catch your thoughts, you find yourself standing before the young man. His hands are tucked into his pockets as he stares at the casket. He seems oblivious to the others around him. I'm sorry about your loss. He looks up, startled, looks around. He does not look directly at you, does not acknowledge your presence. For some reason, this does not offend. In fact, weirdly, for reasons you cannot understand, it seems the most natural thing in the world. As before, you hear his thoughts, as if in response to your question. I could have sworn I heard something. I must have been hallucinating. I guess that's what not sleeping for 2 days does to you. As soon as this is over, I'll head back to the room, pop a couple of V's, and get knocked out. Assuming he means Valium. Though I'm not sure I can, with all of these thoughts. Part of me is guilty, thinking I should be grieving over him. He was my father, after all. And then another part of me, the larger part, doesn't care at all. Do I really feel anything? Any loss? It's strange. I feel nothing. That's such an awful way to feel about your father's death. But is it really? When was the last time I spoke to him? Maybe 4 years now. I'm not angry. I think the years have softened the anger. I'm just apathetic, really. When I got the call, it was almost like Law was telling me about someone else's death. A stranger's. Your mother does seem badly affected. Mom's barely holding on, but she's not going to show us that, as usual. It's amazing how she can grieve over him at all. She still won't say a bad thing about him after all he's done. Part of the problem is how much she worries about us. That's how it's always been. That's part of the problem. That's why she hid the truth from us for so long. Or so she thinks. I think she was mostly just hiding the truth about him from herself. You sense anger, even frustration in his thoughts. His mother, shouldn't he be beside her, comforting her? But there seems to be kind of a distance between them, an abyss that is impossible to cross. He seems to pick up on your thoughts. A part of me does wish I could go to her, but where do we start? It's too far gone, and it's all because of him. What happened? What did your father do? A buzzing fills the world, The world and his next thoughts are drowned in it. The world is fading away, a memory rising. You know this place. You have been here. Oh, shit. A horrific image, a memory. Now you were standing before the girl. She is deeply sad within. A measure of relief fills you. At least one of them is grieving the man in the casket. Yet looking at her fills you with unexpected and surprising sorrow. You want to reach out to her, hold her, tell her that all will be okay, but you know you can't do it. You don't even know her. Don't you? Don't you know her? Are you sure? Why does she invoke such grief in you? You want to ask her if she loved the man in the casket, but that would be a terrible thing to ask at a funeral. But it's a good question. Did she? Why are you here? Who are these people? Why does your not knowing the answers to these questions not bother you? In fact, now you feel very calm. Except for the ebbing and flowing under tides of sorrow, you were mostly at peace. I'm so sorry. She sniffles and does not acknowledge your words. I should have struck you as rude, but it doesn't. I can't believe he's gone. I can't believe it. And so suddenly, in such a terrible way. At least he didn't suffer. Mom saw the body, and she said his face, what was left of it, looked so peaceful, almost like he was sleeping. It's the strangest thing. I never thought I'd feel this terrible, and now look at me. I guess it goes to show, when he was alive, we barely talked, except for those occasions I called. I think I had hardened my heart to him. Maybe that's what happened. I put up a wall, and now that he's dead, you seem affected, unlike Matthew. Matthew is probably hiding his own feelings from himself. He was always that way, even when we were kids, growing up together, always hiding away from himself, always lost in a cloud. Deep down inside, he's probably hurting, and he's sticking to himself, as usual. When I go over to him after the service, he'll probably be stiff. What exactly did your father do? To think that it all goes back to that one moment. Everything would have been different if only Dad hadn't. A burning sensation fills you, an urgency. It is imperative for you to find out what happened to his family, what has broken them apart. Your very soul seems to depend on it. You find the woman, their mother, standing slumped. She stares off into the distance. Did your husband betray you? Betrayal. What a strange thought. And yes, that's as good a word as any for what he did. He'd been at it for years. I never even knew. But that's a lie, isn't it? I knew. Of course I knew. I knew, yet didn't allow myself to know. I kept it a close secret because my biggest fear was that the children would find out. I didn't want them to know what kind of a man he was, so I stayed quiet. Though all those nights when he was away on his supposed business trips, late at work in meetings, I told the kids that their father was a busy man. And that's how it was, wasn't it? Dad's away, he's busy earning a living, busy, always busy. I saw him about once a week during school days, and most weekends he wasn't there. I guess it was normal for most rich kids to get used to it. You went to school where everybody's dad was some big shot, away most of the time. And we bought it. That's the awful part. We bought it hook, line, and sinker. Ma, Dad's going to miss out on PTA again. They want to see him. Your dad's busy, honey. He's a busy man. Until... Princess. That's what he used to call me. Princess. I used to wait to see him, to get the gifts, the hugs. I would wait to smell his cologne. I used to wait for that. I loved him. We all did. And then when it happened, it all blew up in his face. It had to happen. He'd been sleeping with too many women, you see. Mainly by coercion, it appeared. The big CEO of a multinational corporation. It was bound to go wrong. You can't hide the truth forever. That horrid woman, Laura, That awful phone call. She spilled it out. And then other women came forward at his workplace. That whole Me Too movement thing. Harassment. I tried even then to hide it, but what boy has to live with something like that? Going to school, 8th grade, your dad's name in every paper. Me Too bitches. They crucified me. Even those teachers. They screwed with me in front of the whole class. Son of a rapist. Molester Jr. The names kept coming. I think that's when Matthew began shutting us out, and all the stories started coming together. What Dad was really up to, all those business trips, what they actually were, and Ma tried to protect them from it until the very end. She never told us the truth. He was a liar. That's what he was. 6 months. That's how long it took to lose everything. After he lost his job, the house, fancy perks, the kids had to leave private schools, and then, after they got divorced, it was over. Over for us. Matthew couldn't wait to leave home when he finished college, and I don't blame him. He never looked back once. He never forgave them. Either of them. Do you forgive her? It wasn't Ma's fault, but we were just kids, and she didn't know how to deal with the fallout. The relatives, the haranguing, the press, she shut us out too. Do you forgive him? I want to forgive, but he ruined our lives. All for lies, for something so cheap. For sex. You stand before her and you feel a terrible sense of shame. And of course you know why. You knew from the beginning. You know who is in there. The dead body that lies within was once yours. They weep, they stand apart, they are broken. And you broke them. Wow. Okay, that was amazing. As usual, even with their very first release, the writing is so freaking good. The ability to convey that powerful of emotion in something so simple, like that was essentially a visual novel. There was no actual gameplay in that, and it was still so good and so powerful and so emotionally well written. Like, holy shit. I followed this developer on itch.io immediately after the Hospital, the second game of theirs that I did a play of. I want to play everything that these guys make. I hope they make stuff forever, because they're 3 for 3, 10 out of 10 right now. Like, that was beautifully sad and tragic and emotionally well done. Like, so good. That's all I can say about that. Like, no gameplay, whatever, and whatsoever, and it was still fantastic. I keep saying that in different ways, but I don't know what else to say except wonderfully done. Wonderfully done. Definitely looking forward to the next one. Their second release was I believe that was Umbra Mortis, and then The Babysitter, and then Decrypt. So yeah, definitely see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed that one, and look forward to the next of the games by this developer as much as I am, because holy crap, these guys are geniuses. But we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching as always. Peace, y'all.